Hey everybody, how's it going? So I just wanted to start making videos about my progress with learning Japanese. First of all, I guess where did I begin? I'm 28 now, so about 11 years ago, when I was 17 in high school, I took an online class in Japanese, and we used a textbook back then, which was cool and all, as like a first sort of experience with learning Japanese, but I feel like I didn't really learn a lot from it. It was all very textbook stuff, like, really simple greetings, things you might not really use in real conversation though. But I feel like after the fact, all I really got from it was I learned hiragana. And then after that class, I sort of really didn't keep up with Japanese at all. It probably wasn't until I was 23 that I sort of got back into it, because online I found this website called Textfugu and another site that the same person makes called Wanikani, which is for learning kanji. You might have heard of those. So I found those, and they sort of introduce everything as an online textbook. I found it useful as a beginner, kind of. But at the same time, it was a little slow. But for someone that's wanting to move at a really slow pace, I guess, it would be good. And I also found this book, which is Genki. This is supposed to be a really good textbook. And as far as textbooks go, it is a really good option. But so far I've only been through like the first chapter. And my problem was that I kept sort of with Japanese starting and stopping over the past few years. And that's why I never have really progressed past sort of the beginner, lower, intermediate kind of level. But around that time when I was like 23, 24, one thing I did learn was Katakana finally. Which really, you could learn hiragana and katakana in the first, couple weeks if you really tried. So yeah, I was just going really slow, I just couldn't stick with it, I guess. And I also had learned, by that time, really basic grammar. Things like, watashi wa Jeremy desu, yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Super basic phrases and sentence patterns. Nothing even at the intermediate level by then. So I was frustrated, that I hadn't learned more in that time. So again, I sort of stopped, and I would keep restarting, refreshing what I had already learned. But then in this past year, I sort of rediscovered this website by Katsumoto called All Japanese All the Time. And I also had rediscovered mattvsjapan's YouTube channel, which I'll link those in the description below. But those sort of opened my eyes to a more practical way of learning a language. Which when I had first seen them a few years ago, I thought, this is way too intensive. Constantly Japanese all the time, that seemed, not doable to me. But now that I look at it, I realize, all the time really means all the time that you can devote to it. It doesn't have to be 24 hours a day, just as many hours as you can. And it's really not like you're doing exercises in a textbook non-stop or something. It's more input. You're listening to the language constantly, and I sort of realized that's where fluency really comes from, and learning a language really comes from not a textbook or anything, but actually listening to the language. And the language is what teaches you the language, basically, not some book. And so that's probably why you'll notice that in most classroom settings, you'll see that people aren't really becoming fluent in the language typically. They're usually just learning, basic phrases and things so that they can survive maybe and get around, but they're not really learning the best way, I think. So starting in April of this year, 2018, is when I sort of started this book, Remembering the Kanji, which is probably the best way to learn kanji. And it's what's recommended by mattvsjapan and Katsumoto. So basically, with remembering the kanji, you're using Anki, which is a sort of flashcard program. And you are learning several new kanji a day, essentially. But not the readings, just the basic sort of keyword, basic meaning of that kanji. And the point of that is to get the kanji as like an entry in your brain, so that once you learn words in the future, you'll already have a kanji to associate with, which will help you remember the word better. And so essentially with the AJAT method, you are learning all of the kanji first, along with hiragana and katakana. And that's going to take several months typically. For me, it's going to take, maybe 6 or 7 months to learn all 2,000 to 3,000 kanji that I need to learn. But if you have more time available, you could actually do it in maybe 3 months. I'm doing 15 kanji a day, which, a lot of people are doing maybe 25 kanji a day, and they'll get through it sooner. But for me, I have a job as a bartender during the day, so I don't have as much time. And I also only get maybe a few hours a day, maybe 5-6 hours a day of input, which I need to try to increase any way I can. I even listen to a Bluetooth earpiece when I can, which just has Japanese audio playing in my ear. So things like that are how I'm doing this. So far, in the past 2 months, I've learned about 700 kanji. And so, like I said, it's not the readings yet, it's just the general meanings. But basically that has a real big payoff in the long run. And so once I'm finished with kanji, I'll be using this book. Take him, his grammar guide. It's basically all the essential grammar of Japanese. And so you can typically get through that book, they say, in about, a month or two. And once you're done with Take Him, you move on to sentence mining. And that's where you just take I+1 sentences from shows you're watching, YouTube videos, comics, whatever, and you turn those into Anki flashcards, and you try to do 10 to 20 a day. And that's probably the most fun part, I'd say. It's probably going to be sentence mining, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. So here's an example of sort of the Kanji Reviews I do on this crumpled up piece of paper. But yeah, I do those several times a day, but I enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, you're probably not gonna really become fluent, because it's something you need to have fun with. And another sort of thing about AJAT is that it's all about input in the beginning, not output. For the first 2 years or so, you should just be listening to media and reading, so just input, and that's what it's going to build your fluency. And you shouldn't really speak at all until you've reached a point where you can understand almost everything you hear in the shows you've been watching and stuff, because otherwise you might build bad habits with speaking, which can be hard to break. Alright, that's about it for this first video. I'll probably make another one next month, and maybe the month after that, and just keep doing monthly updates on my progress with Japanese. So, alright, hope you liked the video. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.